happiness. And why he's would laugh is because I have kind of an Eeyore personality. Is that a reference that you get? Okay, yeah. The great if. So, Zen and happiness. Buddhism gets a kind of a bad rap because you start with the Four Noble Truths, and life is suffering. Okay, and then you go to the three characteristics of existence, and it starts with suffering. And a lot of people don't get beyond that in terms of what Buddhism is really about. And when I started thinking about what I would talk about, I thought back on my various talks, and I've talked about the three poisons and the four Brahmaviharas and the 10 perfections, and I realized I was giving a lot of lists. And the problem with that is that there's the parable of the finger pointing to the moon. And we get fascinated with the finger. And I try to make it entertaining, but really it's all about the moon. We have to remember that life is more than concepts. And so I came up with Zen, which is one of those things, by its very nature, you really shouldn't be talking about, because it's the focus on being in the now. And when I was doing some research, there's a 300-page book called The Idiot's Guide to Zen. And that's simplifying it for idiots. And then there's a story about the student of the Buddha who really wasn't getting what the Buddha was teaching. And one day the Buddha just held up a single flower and he became enlightened. So between that and the Idiot's Guide, there's going to be this talk. Okay. As I said, the Four Noble Truths start out with life is suffering. And it's all about the ending of suffering, because really the purpose of Buddhism and of Zen is the search for happiness. We're really all about happiness. And it seems to be confirmed by philosophers. Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, which is a great essay, but he comes down to the fact that the purpose of life is happiness. Because happiness has no other corollary. You seek money to do something. You seek fame to do something. But happiness is of itself just fine. And it's not a state. It's a process. It's you go through something and you may say, I'm happy, but it's not that, it's what you did to get there. And the Dalai Lama, in his book, The Art of Happiness, says the purpose of life is happiness. Now we veer from the Greeks at this point because in the Greek philosophy it is count no man happy until he's dead. because it's the virtuous life that leads to happiness. And if a person gets through his life living a virtuous life, then afterwards you can call him happy. And we have an immediate example with Morgan Freeman. I mean, Morgan Freeman has been the voice of God forever. And now he's got 8 women who are calling him a dirty old man, and there are people considering taking away his Lifetime Achievement Awards. So he's going to be a very sad man if he's following the Greek. If he was a Buddhist, he'd be okay. So this talk is about it's going to be okay. So what did the Buddha give us for this search of happiness? He had 45 years of teaching. So he gave us the Eightfold Noble Path and the 5 precepts to live a good life. Then he was explaining it with the Brahmaviharas and the perfections, etc. There are lots of lists, but it's really about how we live in this world, what actions we take, and the intent behind those actions. And that's what the first part of the talk is going to be about, the world we live in. How do we live in this world? Okay, Thich Nhat Hanh said, it's very simple. Breathe, smile, and go slow. That's it. That was his summation of it. I think Suzuki said everything changes. So I'm going to give you a few lists before I go into the second part. The first list is one that I had the audacity to post in my workplace. Well, I was the boss, I could do that kind of thing. So these are 6 concepts for a community. And if you want to think about them, you can think about the body politic, the one we live in. To live together in the same conditions. To observe the same rules. To speak carefully, to avoid dispute. To share one's goods. To share different points of view. And create harmony of opinion. So that actually created a fairly harmonious workplace. There were differences, of course, but basically we were all trying to do the same thing and accomplish the same goal. And people would call other people out if they were playing a game of one-upsmanship, and it worked. Now, then I searched for other lists, because that's what I do. And I had 12 concepts or steps to living a Zen life. And I chose the one with 12 because I have to fill 20 minutes. But there are shorter lists and there are longer lists. But basically it comes down to, well, Thich Nhat Hanh says it's all about mindfulness. So all of these are about mindfulness. So it's do one thing at a time. They've done studies. The people that say they're multitasking, no. They're just hopping from one thing to another. It's much more effective to just do one thing. If you've got a report to write, write the report. If you've got a garden to weed, just weed the garden. Don't think about what's in the kitchen. Do it slowly and deliberately. Basically to take pleasure in what you're doing, but also to make sure you do it correctly, the way you know it should be done. You don't rush through it, cutting corners. You do it completely. Subset of 2. Finish it, or if you can't finish it, put it aside in an orderly fashion so when you come back you just pick up. Do less. There are people who just have an endless list of things to do, and then they get all upset because they didn't do it. But if they just said, this is what I can do today, and this is what I have to do tomorrow, it makes life easier. Put space between things. You can appreciate what you've done more if you put a little space between it. I wasn't here last Sunday because it was the final concert of our season and the retirement of our music director, and there were all these things we were doing to make that special day. And I had set aside Monday to just relax. Well, Monday the emails started because we have another thing coming up in July, and I lost the thing of having completed and giving myself space. But that's something I have to work on. The limits, the boundaries that I have to establish in order to keep my sanity. Develop rituals. We come here and there is a ritual to it, and it focuses us on Buddhism. And you'll also notice in the ritual we often mess up. I remember it at the grand ordination where, it was a culmination of our teaching and learning, and we'd practiced this ceremony, and one moment that I thought I'd really enjoy was when you get the robe and you put the robe on. And we practiced folding it and putting it on. I had that down. I totally messed up. I had to have 2 monks come and untangle me to get it into the right place. But it didn't ruin the ceremony. We were doing the ceremony, and that was what the point was. In life, you can establish a ritual about the preparation of a meal. I like to do all the sous chef stuff first and have it all set, and then the pots and pans in place, and then start cooking and clean up afterward. That's what gives me the pleasure of that action. And then in doing dishes, I don't like other people to help me doing the dishes because I have a routine. And when I'm finished, my drain board looks like a work of art. I mean, everything. Search for those moments in your life. Like in AA, people's lives are a mess. And they'll tell the person, make your bed. Get up and make your bed. You've taken that action. And that starts your day in the right way and gives you a better sense of control. They also say smile. So, designate time for certain things. Yes, get some control of your time. And if you can, make some time to meditate. And we'll get into meditation in a while. And serve others. That's an important part. If it's all about you, you're not going to find happiness. If you bring other people into it, if you serve other people, if your existence is adding to the life of other people, that will make you happy. The Dalai Lama says he greets people with compassion and affection. That's everyone. People he knows and strangers. He assumes that people are good at heart. And people really are at heart good. I, in my checkered career, was a guard on Robertson, which had AA meetings. And because AA meetings usually have coffee and cookies, it's a magnet for the homeless. Because they'll go in, they'll get a cookie, a cup of coffee. They may actually sit for a while because their problem might be, but they don't really stay. And my boss basically took a hard-nosed attitude and was really rough with him. And I think he assumed that I would be that, but I'm only 5'8", and they outweigh me often. But what I did basically was talk to them. You know, in beneath the, I mean, there's a huge spectrum of what they are, but many of them have mental illness and problems. But if you talk to them, very few people do. And they calm down. And they can be reasonable. And the homeless problem on Robertson went away. They knew I had a certain thing that I had to do, and they weren't going to con me around it, so many of them just left. And others stuck around because I talked to them. And they didn't cause any problem. They just were a part of the landscape of Robertson. And then just in terms of your life, it's kind of simple, but surround yourself with people you like and who like you, and try to eliminate the people that are bad for you. I mean, you want a pleasant atmosphere in which to live. So if you've got people that are just SOBs and you can't stand it, don't associate with them. There's no social contract that says, oh, I got to deal with this jerk. No, just don't return the call, or just say, I can't deal with you. Eliminate, avoid things that create conflict for you. And don't fall into thinking, I can't say no. There's a story of this woman in the West, and she worked with young problem kids, and she really enjoyed her work. But there was a little town up in the mountain where she was offered a job doing the similar thing but with older people. And she loved this town. It was beautiful, it was quaint, it had a great view, it had little shops. But someone said, where will you be happy? And this is where the difference, it would give her great pleasure to live in that town, but no pleasure working with those people. She may not have liked the town she lived in, but she really liked the people she was working with. That gave her happiness. And when she was asked the question, she said no to the job and stayed where she was because that made her happy. So all of these are things that we do in life. And now I'm going to turn the page, and it will be about the things of the mind. And maybe I thought about the structure of the talk, and maybe I should have started with the mind, but I realized no, this is about living. And living is what you do now. You're in the middle of living. And if you can surround yourself with nice people, deal with people with compassion and affection, follow the precepts, cultivate the Brahma Viharas. You may not know why you're doing it, but it's going to promote your happiness as a start. And then you can focus on, not then, you'll be doing it while you're doing it, but you could turn your attention to the mind and see deeper into why this is giving you happiness. And just before we leave this, two stories. I was taking a course in teaching, education, and the professor said, tell someone what you want to do. I said, because it's called the concept of viva voce. You're much more likely to do it if you tell someone. You've broken the barrier, the crust you put around yourself, and reached out to another human being. If you tell, it's like New Year's resolutions. We always keep them secret. But if you told people, they could check up on you. So, do that. And the other is in, there's going to be a lot of 12-step stuff. One of the steps is you list out all the bad things you've done. You make the inventory. And the next step is you tell someone. That makes it real. That makes the next step after that more imperative. I do group therapy, and these things keep popping up. I mean, it's like, rather than the expensive group therapy, just go to an AA meeting. I mean, basically it's the same thing. All right, now the mind. And this is from the Dhammapada. It's verse 1 and 2. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If one speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows, as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the wagon. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. If one speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows one, like a shadow that never leaves. And that's true. We are what we think. or we are what we think we are. And what we should be trying to do is to train our mind to keep the good thoughts and to eliminate the bad thoughts, not repress them. You have to deal with them. You have to see what they are. The Dalai Lama calls it analytical meditation. I mean, there's several kinds of meditation. There's the breath, the mind, the body. But what he wants us to do is to reason, to establish our inner awareness, and then do some introspection on it. Become the witness of your actions and your thoughts. If you're getting angry, you're going to get angry. I mean, it's habit energy, if this is what your personality is like. But take a step back and witness it and say, oh, I'm getting angry again. Did I need to be angry? Was there a better way of dealing with this? Take the witness, do some analytical meditation on why you did something, so that the next time this comes up, you'll have a better sense of how to handle it. And this is the most difficult. Let go of your past. It's done with. It's finished. You're not going to get a redo. You have now. Try to live in the now. It's my biggest problem. I can let go of the past. I have the future that I worry about. But basically, it's the now that we only have. So, let go of your past, your assumptions, your prejudices, your attachments. And now I'll go into what the third patriarch says on this topic. And clinging cannot be limited. Even to be attached to the idea of enlightenment is to go astray. Just let things be in their own way, and there will be neither coming nor going. Only obey the nature of things, and you will walk freely and undisturbed. When the thought is in bondage, the truth is hidden, for everything is murky and unclear, and the burdensome practice of judging brings annoyance and weariness. What benefit can be derived from distinctions and separations? And especially, if you wish to move in the one way, do not dislike even the world of senses and ideas. Accept them fully, because it's identical with enlightenment. Just don't be attached to them. Really enjoy life. Enjoy whatever you get, but just don't be attached to it. Thich Nhat Hanh says, the secret of Buddhism is to remove all ideas, all concepts, in order for the truth to have a chance to penetrate and to reveal itself. And Suzuki said, Zen is not some kind of excitement, but concentration on our usual everyday routine. So, this is it. This is what you've got. You hope for enlightenment. You may achieve enlightenment. But this is it. Be comfortable with who you are. Find out who you are. In modern life, that's kind of being lost. We work very hard. This is Americans. We work very hard. And what happens is we get absorbed into the machine. We become just a cog. We are not ourselves anymore. We're just a part of the machine. I feel sorry for the Amazon warehouse workers who basically have 23 seconds to find the item and put it where it needs to be put. That's their life, measured in 23-second increments. The terrible thing is that with artificial intelligence, the machine will probably be able to solve that in under 23 seconds, and then where does that person go? But that's still a person with a life, with hopes and dreams and loves, and that's what we have to be able to hold on to, because we can, to a greater or lesser extent, we can fall into that, and we have to avoid it. And I'll end. Before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. Thank you.
Thank you.